creepy and cool TikToks that will blow your mind. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go!
Disclaimer: this video is for entertainment purposes only. Please do your own research, as these clips haven't been fact-checked.
There's another conspiracy going on with ChatGPT. I don't know if you heard about it.
What is it?
But ChatGPT, you can pretty much type anything you want as long as it's not like violent or anything. Pretty much that's, I guess, against good ethics, right?
Okay, yeah.
But there's one thing that's not against good ethics that you can type in ChatGPT.
What is it?
But it won't give you an answer.
Like the how to kill a person?
No, it's one specific name.
What?
Check this out. So in ChatGPT, you cannot ask ChatGPT about the one name David Mayer.
Why?
You cannot ask that.
David Mayer? Why?
So, David Mayer, like literally you can ask it any question to try and bring up that name. You can even type who is David Mayer, will not give you an answer. David Mayer is one of the youngest, or sorry, not one of the youngest, but one of the latest. Is that right? Like if he's the youngest in the family, in the family tree, I think that's the latest, right?
Okay, yeah.
So he's one of the latest Rothschild children.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So you can't search up anything.
You can't
about
search
him.
up anything about him. Now, you can even write in ChatGPT, give me a list of the Rothschild family tree.
Oh, it's
It'll
not-
give every single name and then go David ...
Damn, what did he do there?
Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Yeah. Did you see
Nobody
that?
knows. Maybe he made ChatGPT. We don't know, but that's the only name you can't search up in ChatGPT.
Yeah, it's probably because the higher ups have more power, so he's like, you can block and demonetize certain stuff.
Now take. Is it David Mayer or David Faber? I think it's David Faber. I might be mistaken though.
Take a look at this. I'm just about to buy a coffee with a little bit of a special twist. This company is called Robot Anno. Take a look at this. Oh my god.
Ooh.
And there we have it. Take a look at that. Isn't that just the most beautiful
Wow.
coffee you've ever seen? There I am on my coffee. Let's have a taste. Oh my god, look at my face. I'm melting. Chinese innovation, Robot Anno. Not a sponsor, by the way, but now they owe me one big time. Although they did give me a free coffee, so I'll let them off. Now, you may have noticed something here. There are a lot of Chinese brands. In recent years, several Chinese tech brands have not only caught up with their Western counterparts, but in some cases have surpassed them in key areas like innovation, market share, and technological leadership. This shift is particularly notable in industries such as telecommunications, consumer electronics, artificial intelligence, and e-commerce.
And they keep your data too. Lovely.
Could this be the first new war of 2025? And spoiler, those involved include the United States, Turkey, Syria, and Israel. Okay, so we all know that earlier this month, Syrian rebel groups overthrew the Assad government, who, along with his father, had been in power for over 50 years. Well, because of this sudden collapse, it's created this crazy power vacuum, leading to clashes, instability, competition for control among the various militant groups in Syria. Now, here's where it gets crazy complicated, so I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible. The United States backs a Syrian rebel group called the SDF. Turkey hate the SDF because it's made up of fighters from a different group which Turkey considers a terrorist organization, the Kurdistan Workers' Party. So Turkey have decided to back another coalition of rebel groups in Syria called SNA because they also don't like Turkey's enemy, the Kurdistan Workers' Party. But after the Assad government fell, the group that America is backing started clashing with the group that Turkey is backing, because Turkey doesn't want that group to set up an autonomous region near their southern border. Now, after the fighting broke out, Washington was able to broker a ceasefire, and it's supposed to last till the end of this week, but there have been violations, and the situation is very fragile. And there are major worries that this could escalate and spiral out of control. And you also might have seen Israel's involvement in Syria, because they have slammed the country with more than 450 airstrikes since the fall of Assad, one of which measured as a 3.0 earthquake. And this is because Israel want to prevent advanced weaponry, including chemical weapons, from falling into the hands of extremist groups that could threaten Israeli security. So yeah, hope that made sense, and I hope that 2025 doesn't start with a bang.
When isn't USA involved?
Ma, you see this?
When does it always have to be a cameraman with Parkinson's?
I think a lot of people would assume because you're Dennis Rodman's daughter, money wasn't an issue for you growing up.
We had an expedition and we kind of lived in that for a little bit.
Trinity
What?
Rodman, an Olympic gold medal soccer player, stopped by the Call Her Daddy podcast and talked about growing up without her father, Dennis Rodman, consistently in her life.
We tried to live with him, but he's having parties 24/7. He's bringing random in. He loves the spotlight. He loves the cameras. He loves bringing his children on stage and being like, oh, these are my kids. He's not a dad. Maybe by blood, but nothing else.
Her father, 5-time NBA champion, has previously spoken out about wanting to be a better parent. Rodman has not responded to CNN's attempts for comment. During the podcast, Trinity expressed that his absence as a parent was something she mostly kept private.
You have never really talked about what was going on in your family behind the scenes. What made you feel ready?
We never want to make him look bad, and that is at the cost of kind of holding in a lot. I guess it's just like the anger that I haven't really been able to let out is like difficult for me.
So you're telling me Dennis Rodman wasn't a good father? Who would have guessed?
A lot of the elites had their summer homes in Jekyll Island, including the Rockefellers, Vanderbilts, the Morgans.
This reminds me, if I can, talk about the place we got married.
Yeah.
It's like the place that we got married, the venue called the Sidoni Mansion. It was built at the turn of the century by all of those guys you just mentioned. And he went on a hunting trip. He was hunting on this land that he ultimately ended up purchasing and building the Sidoni Mansion, which was originally a hunting, just turned into their wealth. And he also had 5 children. If you had that kind of money and that many children at the turn of the century, you would have like hundreds of descendants today. But they have 3 living relatives. All the wealth is mysteriously gone. Every single family member, apart from one daughter, died in that house.
And they only went there for Christmas.
They were only there for Christmas.
There's something hidden there. That's scary.
I don't like that.
It makes you think, because it's like, so like,
There's also a book called Creature from Jekyll Islands, which examines the creation of the Federal Reserve.
Okay, I'm videoing this, and this is one of those drones that everybody's talking about. Right there. And at first I thought it was the ghetto river, but it's not. And it's loud.
Oh my god. Here
Wow,
we go.
look at that.
Here it is.
What is that?
That is awesome. You know, that thing looks very much like the Skynet drones. How do you sleep digging through all these rabbit holes?
Did you know that 2 tablespoons of chia seeds has 20% protein, 32% of your daily magnesium, 5 times more calcium than milk, 2 times the antioxidants in blueberries, 100% more omega-3 than salmon, 41% of your daily fiber, 3 times more iron than spinach, and 64% more potassium than a banana? Follow us for the best daily healthy insights.
You know, one doc here on TikTok do not recommend chia seed as it causes inflammations. I don't know what to believe anymore.
The Romans didn't build it because they didn't have the capability to lift stones of that mass.
Yeah, the Romans were able to build a crane that could lift 6 tons. That's not enough to even lift the stones that were inside the King's Chamber.
The largest stones inside the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid are approximately 80 tons or 70 tons metric. Were moved some 500 miles from the Aswan quarry and lifted and stacked hundreds of feet above the ground. But here's what's wild is that those stones, the largest stones in the Great Pyramid, compared to the Trilithon stones, the Trilithon stones are 15 times heavier.
So no one ever considers the Nephilim?
Now you're saying you can't go to the end of the earth if it's flat? Why can't you go to it? If
Well, it's not legal, but you can go, like, for example, Admiral completely trusts,
Sure.
And when I say the ice wall is as far as I know, but a guy named...
I apologize for the choppy scene, okay, folks?
Admiral Byrd, he said, I flew to Antarctica, it was ice, it's the ice wall, he saw the ice wall, and then he kept flying past it, and there was more land past the ice wall, and he said it's the greenest grass he ever seen. So they might actually be hiding land past Antarctica.
You know, bro acts like him and Admiral Byrd are besties.
There's a story about a shoe salesman in Los Angeles in the 1950s, and a journalist asked him, "What's your secret?" And he said, 2, not 3. If a woman comes into my store, I'll bring her a pair of shoes. She'll try them on. And she'll say, "Could I see that pair, please?" And I'll bring her a second pair of shoes. And she said, "Could I also see that pair, please?" And he'll say, "Which one would you like me to take away?"
Oh.
Because what he found
Wow.
is when they had a choice of 3, they bought none. And when they had a choice of 2, they bought 1.
Ah, I love that.
Right? 2, not 3. Too much choice is overwhelming. But
Oh
the
man,
constraint.
I need to apply that to my life. You see, that's brilliant. I love it when people find the nexus of how you're supposed to do it. Because I understood it as a concept, but it's a nice way to think about it for anything, really.
And so what I've started doing in my life is I've added constraint, right? And I didn't even realize it until we're talking right now.
It's because we are so terrified of making the wrong choice. And rightly so, by the way.
That is jam, folks. And you know how many here spend more time browsing through Netflix than actually watching a movie?
The Earth is flat, stationary, and enclosed by a glass dome known as the firmament, which contains the sun, moon, and stars, all of which move, not the Earth. Above and below are waters. This isn't a conspiracy. If satellites were really in space, why would we need communication towers in the middle of the ocean? A compass only functions properly on a flat surface to differentiate between north, east, south, and west. Water always stays level and contained, with the Arctic Circle and Antarctica acting as barriers that hold the oceans in. The solid glass dome or firmament keeps the air inside, creating a sealed, airtight environment. The Earth doesn't spin at millions of miles per hour like a ball. The sounds of thunder booms are produced when solid objects shift. Even world leaders know this truth, as shown by the flat Earth map on the UN logo. Once again, it's the sun, the Earth. The people who taught you that the Earth is a globe are fully aware of and believe in the flat, enclosed system we all live in and that no one can leave. We're told that we're spinning at 1,000 miles per hour or 66,600 miles, supposedly chasing the sun through space at nearly 500,000 miles per hour. According to this model, we're spiraling through an infinite universe, never in the same place twice. Now consider the Georgia Guidestones, which had a small hole drilled through one of the central stones. If you looked through that hole, you would always see Polaris, the North Star. But how could we be moving in so many directions, traveling vast distances, and yet that star remains perfectly aligned in the hole? It should shift out of sight constantly, yet it stayed in place for 40 years until one day someone blew up the monument. They say Earth spins eastward at 1,600 kilometers per hour at the equator. So here's a question. How does a plane flying eastward at just 800 kilometers per hour reach its destination? Shouldn't the ground be moving too fast for the plane to catch up? And what about landing? Imagine trying to land a plane safely on a runway that's supposedly zipping along at 1,600 kilometers per hour. Sounds risky, doesn't it? The official explanation is that Earth's atmosphere is stuck to the planet, held by gravity despite the vacuum of space above it. But think about this. If Earth were a spinning ball, pilots would constantly need to adjust for the curve. At 800 kilometers per hour, a plane would have to lower its nose by around 850 meters per minute to stay on course with Earth's curvature. Otherwise, it would be flying higher and higher, reaching about 50,000 meters in just an hour. Yet pilots don't make these constant adjustments. Once they reach cruising altitude, they level off and maintain a steady course until it's time to descend. No constant corrections for Earth's curve, just a straight level flight path. Doesn't that raise questions? If Earth were really spinning and curving, wouldn't we see constant course corrections? But we don't. It's a compelling clue that maybe things aren't what we've been taught. What do you think? If you're curious to dive deeper into these ideas, make sure to check out more videos on this page.
I don't know, but the flat Earth thing seems kind of more realistic. What do you think?
The theme is that you don't actually have any purpose or end result, and you're not created in the image of God. In fact, in the ancient Babylonian system, only the kings were created in the image of God. And what we see that is counter to that is that even, sure, there's superficial, divided the waters, but we find that in almost every society and culture. That's not a parallel as much as it's just a generality. I would say what we see within the biblical account is that God purposefully creates. There's only one God. He purposefully creates, and then he creates and it's good. And it continues to say it's good 7 times. And then at the end of chapter 1, just for, the thick people in the original audience, it says, and then it was very good. And then he creates humanity, not kings, but simply the humans that he creates in God's image. And they have purpose and meaning, and that instills them with this creation order. And that's not what we find in the Enuma Elish. In fact, we find the opposite in the Enuma Elish, is that the created order is not good. It's a mistake. And that you are not created in the image of God. And there's a reminder that regular people are not created in the image of God. So linguistically, Hebrew does have Semitic ties with Akkadian. It doesn't with Sumerian. Sumerian is a language isolate, a glutenizing language. But I would say, just with all due respect, the parallels linguistically are not there. There might be superficial kind of concepts that are there, but they're so superficial that we can find them in everything. In the sense of, I'm in an office studio, you're in your office studio. That doesn't mean that that we're the same people or we're even in the same place. Does that make sense?
There was a pants down spanking in the supermarket.
Vivek and Elon is not in the White House as of yet, but they apparently are already putting the work in. So as of yesterday, Elon had the people in Congress in a uproar, and he went on a rampage over $100 billion bipartisan bill that the government wanted to pass in order to avert a government shutdown on Friday. But Elon said, baby, go ahead and shut it down because this bill will not be going through. Okay, now here's the deal. This bill was over 1,500 pages, and I'm assuming they didn't think anybody was going to read it, but Vivek and Elon said, we got time today, and they actually sat down and they read it. A few things that they did not like in this bill, and one of the most important things was the fact that the Congress wanted to give themselves a pay increase. Okay, now at this moment they making about $175,000 a year. This increase would be over 40%, which would take them to over $240,000 a year. They was like, we not going for it. In addition to that, they have some things in there that will prevent them from being investigated. People in Congress, which sounds very suspicious. In addition to that, there was some funding in there for a future plan, in addition to a whole bunch of other things. And Elon said, we are not going for it. Shut it down. Do whatever you got to do. But this bill will not be pushed. Y'all, these people are not in office yet, and they are already put. Call me crazy, and y'all can say what y'all. A hell of an administration this go round.
Trump fans, Elon, Vivek, equal Congress worst nightmare.
Is it true that microwave safe means it just means that the plastic won't melt in the microwave, but it's...
Do never put plastic in a microwave. So here's the story. The BPA, phthalates, plasticizers are added to the plastic, but they're not chemically bound to it. Okay? So if you put anything in a container that has these chemicals in it, they will, and then put it in a hot environment, they will come out of the plastic and go into the food. So if you, in a microwave, or you put your bottle in the car and the sun comes in and it warms up the bottle and then the stuff goes into your water. You don't want to mix these chemicals and your food, but if you do, the worst thing is to do it in a heated environment.
I think I'm probably now made of about 90% of, microplastics. It's all that holding me together at the moment.
The Easter Island statues, the heads that are above the surface, are just a tiny part of it. It's just natural erosion that covered up everything else.
It's not so much erosion, it's the deposition of sediment over time. You can see that dark bit is the bit that was above ground. Then they dig down, it goes down 30 feet underground. And the issue is, if this thing is only 700 years old, how do you get 30 feet of sedimentation in just 700 years? Much longer period that would be required to create that depth of sedimentation.
The giants that live here left their chess pieces behind. Oh. Wow. This cannot be real. Oh, teach me how to doggy.
California.
Is he breaking a law that's currently on the books to not vape in Parliament?
In vain, Luigi, thank you for sacrificing your entire life that it's not an issue of right versus left. There is 1% of the population that is keeping the rest of us, the 99% of us, the majority of us, sick, poor, confused, angry, and pointing the finger at one another. The real terrorism is actually these corporations that work to keep us sick and poor and dying at crazy rates for their own profit. That's the real murder here.
This is wrong on so many levels. Murder is a sin, and God is the offender.
Do you remember in Scarface, the beginning scene when like the drug deal goes wrong? Manny, he's in the getaway car and he's being distracted by a girl in like a blue bikini. She's blonde. You remember? Her name was Tammy Lynn Leopard. And after she recorded her scenes in that movie, she ended up disappearing and still to this day was never found. What the f? To give a little context, as she got older, she ended up getting into modeling and a little bit of acting. She ended up landing a role in the movie called Spring Break. I've heard about it before. After the movie was done filming, her and the crew got invited to an after party. She ended up going there alone. After she came back from the party, her family, her mother would say that she started acting completely different and she became more paranoid. At the party, she ended up seeing something that she wasn't supposed to see and that someone was looking for her and was worried that once they found her that they would kill her. She still didn't say what she saw, but knowing like in the context of Diddy, I'm pretty sure we could imagine what the fuck she probably saw. And she ends up getting a role in Scarface. Everything was normal until the 4th day of filming, and one of the scenes it showed someone being shot. It looked really, really realistic, but I guess since she's new to this, she ended up.
But this movie is from 1982.
Apple just announced that in their next upgrade coming this fall that they're going to actually put ChatGPT on every iPhone to collect and analyze all the data of yours that's flowing through an iPhone if you're using it. Each Google or Apple phone has a 32-digit advertising ID. It's a code. Someone could call it the mark of the beast that follows that device around everywhere. That's how the tech companies track where that device goes to figure out proximity for advertising, sales, and who you're interacting with in your schedule. The average kid in America, by the time they reach the age of 13, has had 72 million data points collected on them by big tech.
Wow.
Using that advertising ID.
Wow.
It is shocking what big tech thinks they can do to get away with it. Having been seen the abuses of law enforcement and politicized government organs, and especially after the 2020 election, seeing them cancel certain voices, I said we got to have our own phone independent of the Google and Apple universe that they can't cancel. Our CTO is actually the guy that developed Pegasus.
Are you?
Yeah, but
that scares the shit out of me.
They already did, and Google phone have a Gemini.
Something really weird that happens when a lot of awards, they're always saying thank you for this award, but we're going to give credit to Beyonce. The reason why they're doing that is because Beyonce is a master witch. We also have Beyonce's ex-drummer who accused her of doing extreme witchcraft. She's like at the very top of the ring. And so she actually has all of these people in chains spiritually. So weird if you look at these clips. They're all extremely afraid of receiving honor for the award. And they always give it to Beyonce. He takes the mic from Taylor Swift and he's like, to Beyonce, who is the greatest of all time. And that went viral because it was so weird. He literally snatched the mic from her. People don't understand this is all spiritual. We're not making this up. This is stuff that you're not being told. This is stuff that's being hidden from you. Because if you actually knew that these celebrities were witches and warlocks and worshiping Satan, you wouldn't buy their stuff anymore. The only way that Satan can advance his agenda is if it's all hidden. Even people who are not saved, even people who are not Christian, the Bible says that the law of God has been written on our hearts like a tablet. People will naturally gravitate away towards satanic evil if they know it's actually in front of them. This dark stuff is being exposed because God wants to save you, because God wants you in his kingdom. Hallelujah. So take that call serious.
So based on this theory, Kanye basically saved Taylor.
I saw like a werewolf creature as a kid. That's the only thing I've ever.
And you're fully confident in what you saw.
In my parents' house, there was like a screen door that went out from like a sunroom. I was probably like 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I saw this thing, and I remember looking at it multiple times. It was like in the window, it was kind of grinning at me, and it had this like red eyes, and I was like, this is not going away. When I looked, and I screamed and ran and told my parents. But you know, the reason I remember it though is because I would run from one room to the next for years after that, and I wouldn't look out that window. But then I was listening to Sasquatch shows, and people were saying that they see the dog man, the dog man, the dog man. I'm like, the heck is the dog man? I know what the Sasquatch is. What is the dog man? And then I'm like, oh my gosh,
that's what you saw.
I saw the same thing.
What is the dog man?
It's the werewolf.
Does it walk up on 2 legs?
Yeah, it does both. Sometimes it runs off.
Is it like the Harry Potter? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just your classic werewolf. Most of them have the werewolf face. Upright.
Werewolf.
Now,
pretty terrifying.
Nate, what are your actual thoughts on that? Like, do you think it was an actual physical person who turned into a, or do you think it was...
Brought to you by Trust Me Bro Production.
Footage of our flat Earth from 1970 to Apollo mission.
I've never seen this before.
Taken from 2 hours apart. You can see the ice wall and more land beyond.
This video got 13 million views. Yeah, look at that way off in the distance. Now what's in between there?
Apollo mission never made it past the firmament. This footage is taken from below the dome. NASA are not able to penetrate the firmament. Leaked footage from the 1972 Apollo mission of our flat Earth Part 2. You can see land beyond the ice barrier.
Well, look over here on the right. Looks like there's another sun way over there.
From 1969 of our flat Earth from the Apollo 11. You can see land beyond the ice wall.
Glad I was able to get this before it got taken down. Who knows if that is real footage or not, but it reminded me of this map by Nos Confunden, where he has the whole flat Earth, ice wall, Earth map here, but then you zoom out and there's other planets, and they're surrounded by ice or water in between. It's like a great valley of ice, and that's what the footage just showed us. So what if he was right all along, and there really is just a bunch of openings of like circles, and those are the actual other planets, and you have to like fly or sail over there. There's Jupiter, there's Mars, all the other planets in our solar system on this map. We got Mercury right up here and like a bunch of others that are based on the names of star systems that we, like Orion and Sirius. So yeah, who knows? Maybe Nos Confunden was right all along.
Wow. And only one time I got to ask a couple of questions. I could see him on his screen on Chat GPT trying to look for the answer real quick.
Knowledge that I know, like when I really studied all this, what I thought was interesting about the Bible was how many like different eyewitness. I studied C.S. Lewis back in the day, how many different eyewitnesses and stuff there were, and they went on purpose to mention so many other names. Where was that piece
I found
discovered?
the text where I was referencing. Actually, I was misquoted. I misquoted there. It's the Gospel of Barnabas.
Why you always lying?
Billy is a fraud.
They just found a 1600-year-old amulet depicting King Solomon spearing the devil. Solomon has come up here a few times. If you're unfamiliar, he is a biblical Israelite king, important in all 3 Abrahamic religions, believed to be a prophet in Islam. He is also known for the Seal of Solomon, a supposedly magical ring that gave him the power to summon and control demons, which he then supposedly used to write the Lesser Key of Solomon, which includes, I'm going to go ahead and try to get these right, Ars Gotia, Ars Theurgia Gotia, Ars Paulina, Ars Almael, and Ars Notoria Quam Creator Altissimus Salomoni Reve la
In the
Vie.
name of Jesus.
And while whether or
deny
not he
that.
actually wrote these is up for debate, this is considered a very knowledgeable book by many on issues of the occult and demons and things of that nature. It is at the very least based on the Testament of Solomon, which, while not considered a canonical part of theology, is considered to be something that was actually written by Solomon. Now, this pendant that they discovered shows Solomon on horseback spearing the devil, with text that said, "Our Lord defeated evil." The other side of the amulet has the name of 4 angels: Azrael, Gabriel, Michael, and Israfil. The archaeologists said that it was a symbol of religion and power, and that it likely belonged to a cavalry soldier stationed at the ancient Byzantine city of Hadrianopolis in modern-day Turkey.
He shouldn't be messing with any of this.
Back in the 1700s, the English elite would basically have in their gardens a live ornamental hermit, which basically means a man that was like a wizard. I've heard about it. And their sole purpose was to just live in their garden. They would live in like a little shack. They weren't allowed to cut their hair, their beards, or even bathe. And they were supposed to dress up like druids. They would look like Gandalf. They didn't tend to the garden at all. All they would do is basically read and write, and just like, you're supposed to look like you're contemplating. Their sole purpose was to embody the romantic ideal of the solitary contemplative life. An example of like how much they got paid: this one did a 7-year contract with this hermit man, and it was 700 pounds, which is equivalent to $125,000 today.
What? One time or per year?
One time. So for 7 years, he would be paid. So not a lot. They feed you have a place to live, and you just read and write all day.
No, he can't take a shower for
At week 3, you don't care anymore.
But he was fired 3 weeks into the job because he was caught having a drink at the pub. Gandalf's like drinking a beer at the bar.
Yeah, so you can't, because you don't even, you can't be making
socialize.
friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, social, like that makes total sense.
That's around 17,000 a year. That's still good money in the 1700s, don't you think?
So it turns out that that individual who called the police on Luigi and McDonald's is not guaranteed to receive that $60,000 award. The reason being super strict procedural requirements. It's not as simple as, I called, he was arrested, give me my money. The NYPD were offering $10K while the FBI were offering $50K. But to actually qualify for either of them, they usually require those tips to be submitted through specific channels. Like, for example, the NYPD's Crime Stoppers, where you call and receive a specific reference number, or the FBI's official tip line or website. But because this individual just called 911 instead, they could, out of a brutal technicality, deny them.
Sounds like the FBI uses the same payout tactics as insurance companies.
This reality TV prank went completely wrong, and it ended up causing a murder. There was this program called The Jenny Jones Show, and the segments will revolve around controversial things.
It was messy then.
So on this episode, centered around 6 people who had secret admirers.
Nah, I feel like I know where this is going, bro.
So a man named Jonathan Schmitz, he had a longtime crush, and Jonathan had hoped that it was his ex-girlfriend, but it wasn't his ex-girlfriend. It was a man named Scott Amador, and this guy and Jonathan were actually good friends.
How bad's the crush? Tell me about the first time you met him. What was your first impression?
Well, I only saw the lower half of him, so you're gonna match.
He knows you're gay, right?
Yeah.
Do you know that he is?
Anything's possible.
And keep in mind, Jonathan can't hear none of this because he's backstage. He comes out, and then they tell him his secret admirer is Scott, and they start replaying what Scott said about him.
This is definitely gonna be a hard watch.
You think Donna has a crush on you?
Did I? No, we're good friends.
Well, guess what? It's Scott that has the crush on you.
You lied to me. He's got a cute little hard body. You know, one you just want to pick up and put in your curio cabinet.
Did you have any idea that he liked you this much?
Heterosexual.
3 days pass, and then...
Why did you do that?
The reason why I guess it kind of triggered them as well was because apparently Scott had been harassing him and stalking him.
Yeah, you know, Ray William Johnson's made a video about this, and he explains the whole story detail by detail. Check it out.
Some of you know the Titanic went down April 15th, 1912. 2,200 people were on board, but they only had 16 lifeboats. They evacuated women and children first, as was custom. But as the story goes, many men that night said goodbye to their families, went back to their quarters, and put on a tuxedo. Then they went to the dining hall, shared a meal one last time, and committed with one another to die like a gentleman. Jesus said there is no greater love than to lay down one's life for his friends, meaning there is no such thing as stronger stronger masculinity than a man who pursues sacrificial strength. And it's why today, Men of Mosaic, I ask you, will you join me in this effort to die like a gentleman? You need to know I'm not putting this on because I think I'm like the men of the Titanic. I'm not. I would have scratched and clawed to save my skin and see my kids. If I was there in that moment, I would have taken another family out if it meant I could be with my kids. But I need you to know I'm putting this on because while I am not yet like those men of the Titanic, who build, who are brave, who know how to for the goodness of God and the benefit.
Wow, that hit hard.
Get the entire out of here. This ain't him. That's supposed to be hard. Listen to this. So him and his buddy Mike walk in and see this guy sitting over there saying, hey, that looks like the guy from the James. He thought his Mike was just joking. And then he said, then he said it to the cashier, and the cashier and them start joking, and the cashier is a female. That's the one who called. And that's what we're finding out, according to this guy. So he asked his buddy Mike, how did he know that was him? Or what made him think that was him? Because obviously he's like, oh, he's not joking. He said, well, look at the book bag, look at his eyes, and he had all the same stuff from the actual crime. Why would he still have all of the same shit? And this is supposed to be the most recent mugshot. And you telling me this guy is this guy? And this guy? And even that guy said that if the cashier heard him and Mike say that, hey, that's the guy from Manhattan shooting, he knows the guy heard him, and the guy didn't have any reaction to saying, hey, that's the shooter or anything. I could be wrong, but something ain't adding up. And I don't like it. I talk about all this on my podcast, The Flow Show No Filter. It's on Apple and Spotify. Check me out. I'm out.
Yep. Let me know how you feel about this in the comment.
This is a cursed image. It's a cursed painting, to be specific. The Woman of the Rain. I don't know if you've seen it before.
I've never seen it in my life.
The story goes is that this lady, she was constantly having this weird feeling before going to sleep that somebody was just watching over her. And then this one night, she just suddenly got the urge to paint because she was an artist, and it only took her 5 hours to paint that, and that entity kind of possessed her into painting and physically manifesting itself on the painting. She put that painting in the market. It was purchased 3 times.
Okay.
The first was a woman, and she says that she literally couldn't sleep. She felt like as if the painting was alive and it was watching her. Yo, this is giving me the chills, bro. She even tried to hide it, but she just felt like the presence was there.
Oh my gosh, bro.
She ended up returning it back to the artist, got purchased again by another guy, and he said that he felt like a shadow of the woman would walk over him at night, and he kept having nightmares of her. He didn't even want his money back. He just gave it back. And then the third person, same, couldn't stand having the painting inside the house, bro. What this reminded me of is in the movie It, there was this scene where one of the boys is scared of this painting, a crooked lady or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And then the painting comes to life.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna show you the scene real quick.
Yeah. I forgot how the scene went too. It's been a while since I watched it.
It's 2017.
Oh yeah, 7 years ago.
Wow.
Your hands. If you're happy and you know it. Then your face will show it. If you're happy and you know it.
A 14-week-old unborn baby who appears to clap its hands together to the amazement of the expecting couple.
This is precious.
Have you guys ever heard about the Pyramid of the Sun in Bosnia? This archaeologist man was looking at this mountain, and it had perfectly 4 sides. And he's like, that kind of looks like
That's awesome.
So he started found these giant stones perfectly stacked. In the middle of these blocks was geopolymer, which is like an ancient cement. This pyramid was built based off carbon dating 35,000 years ago. The Great Pyramid, 7,000. This is where it gets really weird. He got shut down because Zahi Hawass, the lead Egyptologist in Egypt, pleaded with the Bosnian government saying, don't let him look into this any further.
Weird!
And so the Bosnian government's like, you can't go dig up anymore. The whole story just got swept under the rug. And then over 50 archaeologists came out to observe it themselves, and they're like, this is a pyramid. If you get a satellite image of this place, there's 2 other mountains that have a pyramid shape to them. It's just so weird that every single culture had a giant pyramid.
We have pyramid too in Indonesia. It's called Gunung Padang. Some say it's older than the one in Egypt.
Prayed over one of the most haunted locations in America, known as the Goatman's Bridge. The Goatman's Bridge is claimed to be haunted by a demonic satyr known as the Goatman, who's described as a half-man, half-goat figure who roams in the forest around the bridge. Many visitors report demonic activity when coming here, such as seeing glowing eyes at night, feeling things touch their shoulders, scratches on their back, as well as seeing the Goatman himself. There are even satanic rituals that are done on top of and under the bridge involving animal sacrifices, with the intentions of opening up demonic portals in the location. As Christians, we do not fear the paranormal because Jesus gave us authority in Luke 10:19 to trample over serpents and scorpions. We went to this location to take territory in the spirit over the kingdom of Satan and declared that this place would no longer be a contact point for people to encounter demons, but instead encounter ministering angels that will lead them into a relationship with Jesus Christ. While the world is often scared of the paranormal, us believers know that the paranormal is scared of the Holy Spirit living in us. Horror stories and paranormal investigations do nothing but glorify the devil with no hope or resolution. However, Jesus Christ came to destroy on 3:8. Yes, the demonic realm is real because Jesus Christ defeated every single principality when he died.
Jesus Christ is king.
Human history was year 536 AD. They called it like the year.
When was that? What was happening at that time?
There was a volcano that erupted in Iceland that ended up making the sky dark around the entire world, Europe, Asia, Africa. Dark for an entire year from this cloud. How big?
An entire year?
An entire year. To where all these different nations recorded that year of like the sun gave off no warmth and the global temperature dropped degrees within that year. And so there was mass famine.
Yeah.
It was like recorded in China that it was.
Sounds like you're just describing Portland at this point. Like,
but what that did was with the famine and all that stuff, all the mainly rats, because it was so cold outside, they would come into homes, which ended up leading to the bubonic plague.
No way, because they carried it. Wow.
It was like the first recorded plague was from the result of this volcano going off in Iceland.
I can't imagine that.
That Jay-Z and NFL partnership is over after this Diddy shit. This is probably the first time you heard this, so I'm gonna explain. You remember back in 2019, Jay-Z partnered with the NFL, and they were supposed to help in the NFL's social justice efforts. Now, with these recent allegations, we know this, and NFL fans are already calling for the termination. Already know that kind of not like us that Kendrick Lamar put out, which is calling Drake basically a petty. There's already controversy about is Kendrick going to perform not like us, or when he does, he's gonna be talking about A minor and petty, all of that. But now Jay-Z has entered that same conversation. If you think the Super Bowl is about to let Jay-Z and Drake and all this just turn it into the pervert bowl, you ain't thinking. All I'm gonna say is I went into this shit deep. Tune into my podcast, The Flow Show No Filter, on Spotify and Apple. This shit better than Netflix. I'm out.
Dark episode of Mujer Casos de la Vida Real. This one is specifically called La Muerte es Vecina. In this episode, the main, antagonist is played by Maria Prado.
Yeah. She's been in a couple of those episodes.
In this episode, we're met with the woman. Her name is Dora. She goes to her neighbor's house, who happens to be a retired nurse. And Dora, she specifically needs vitamin injections to help out with her diabetes. So she goes. It's a little bit weird because she has like a pet scorpion. She goes on to explain something that she did when she was a kid. And basically, she explains that she hates seeing other people happy. And she says it herself, it irritated seeing her grandmother happy because she has no reason to be happy. She leaves, she tells her husband, and the husband goes on to explain like, yeah, I have the same feeling, she's weird, we had a weird interaction, I don't want you going back to her anymore. And then she says, after the next injection, I'm never gonna see her again. She goes to get her injection. She gives her the vitamins that she needs, but she switches it with a different medication. And it turns out that she switched it out with the venom from the scorpion. She ends up butchering her body, and then the husband starts getting worried. It's been too long. Where the fuck is your mother? We need to go find her. He tells the cops what's going on, and they go raid the nurse's house. And as they're searching the house, you see dismembered body parts.
Yo, and keep in mind, guys, these stories are real life stories.
I was trying to say that, bro.
So these were sent in from people
Nobody believed you, but you have finally made it to the end of the ice wall. All of life is a lie, and now you will expose it to the entire world, but you will never find your way back. That was kind of a crazy coincidence that video showed up on my For You page at the same time I'd been speaking to someone on Telegram in an encrypted chat saying that he's going to buy a hangar in Madagascar as well as a plane to go fly over Antarctica and see if there actually is land over there, because he's been astral projecting, and this is what he saw over there, which is one continent. He drew a whole map for me that I can't show you right now, but there's one continent over there, and he says you can only go there by plane, and once you go past Antarctica, it's hard to return back to Earth because your compass will stop showing magnetic north, and so it's hard to get your bearings right, and you might never be able to. Why would he want to do this in the first place? What did he find on the dark web? Well, I'll explain that to you right now. The short answer is he's going there to see if there's a special fruit that he can go and take that's only ripe every 10 years and is guarded by heavy defenses. But the long answer is he's been astral projecting and he's writing this entire book. This is the only page that I'm able to show you. He gave me permission. I had to cross out the actual drawing of the fruit though. But he's been astral projecting and speaking to this guy named Henry Hudson, who's from the 17th century. You can read up all about him on Google. But he says that this guy is still alive. He figured out a way to extend his life. And he's been traveling everywhere on Earth, even the secret places. And he's now giving his information away to be written down in this book, and he wants this book to be shown out to everybody, and I'm like the only person who is able to actually show this to people. So if you want to, you can read this. Hopefully I can show more pages later, but this all got me thinking, a special fruit, maybe the Garden of Eden was actually past the ice wall, and this fruit that only ripens every 10 years is guarded over here, and that's what he really is trying to go after. Maybe this is what Henry Hudson is using to be able to live so long. I don't know. This is just my update video for my Discord people who've been begging me for this. I got 1,500 people in there that want to go past the ice wall, and we can go check it out. We can go to Antarctica and see if this actually is all real. If there actually is secret land out there. But if you want to join, the link is in my bio.
I don't think it's that easy to just fly from Madagascar to beyond the ice wall. Like, wouldn't the government shut him down?
You can't even leave your car right here to go in there. Within 1 minute, your stuff is getting smashed.
On Sunday morning, as In-N-Out announced its closure, Oakland police say they arrested someone for removing an ATM from the wall at the Bank of America, less than half a mile away. And just a couple hundred feet away at the Raising Cane's on Hagenberger, a manager says they were forced to close their indoor dining area and provide employees with a secure fence for parking, all due.
It seems like another thing is closing in Oakland, another thing is leaving Oakland, all this stuff. And I get it now. You know what I mean? People ain't trying to deal with this, but you know, we're the ones, especially us East Oaklanders, like we really suffer.
Oakland residents blame city leadership.
The crime getting worse, so the city really need to help us out.
Like I said, you're finally now starting to see a little bit of police around here, but it's just a little bit too late, too little, too late.
Oakland police know the area is a problem, so they increased the number of patrols and started working with a private security team for 24/7 monitoring last year. OPD says in 2023, they saw a 23% reduction in auto burglaries around Hagenberger and 98th Avenue compared to 2022. And despite all the effort, after the In-N-Out on Oakport Street closes in late March, customers will have to travel to Alameda or San Leandro to get their double-doubles.
Oakland, U.S. becoming a real GTA city.
Did you know that there was a cave found in the Grand Canyon that predated Native Americans and in fact looked like it came from Egypt, and the Smithsonian denies it to this day, yet they funded the expedition? So in 1908, this explorer, he wanted to go to the Grand Canyon to look for gold. So he was going down one of the rivers in the Grand Canyon and saw a mineral deposit about 2,000 feet up on a cliff. Went up there and he saw some bushes or whatever, and he pushed the bushes aside, and it was a staircase that led up to he said clearly a man-made cave. He walked in there and immediately was like, what am I looking at? Because it looked like there was hieroglyphics all on the walls and it was huge. And so he was like, this is crazy. And then went to the Smithsonian and was like, can you fund me and like we'll get a team out there to see what this is.
Yeah.
So they went out there and it was basically an underground city. It would have housed like 50,000 people.
What?
The natives in that region, they talked about how they weren't the first people on the land and that there was people actually before them. And those people were taught by the star people how to make weapons, how to do all this.
Smithsonian hides a lot that doesn't fit the evolution narrative.
This is the video that's going viral right now, showing account on TikTok.
I like this
it was
guy.
from this guy. Yes, you can see the dogs barking, and then as soon as they heard the cry, they started howling, crying as well.
Whoa, what the fuck?
Oh my God. Listen to the dog. These dogs, no.
My eyes are tearing right now, bro. I'm not gonna lie, that's one of like the craziest Yorona videos I've seen in a while.
That's what I'm saying, bro. When I saw it, the dogs are the most convincing part,
Yeah, of
bro.
course, yeah.
And plus, like, it looks like it's just like gliding, bro.
I think it's real.
Let us know in the comments if you guys think that video is real or not.
Well, I think
I
you're
don't
going to
know.
be pretty happy with this video because I got 6 new leaked photos that were rumored to have been taken beyond the ice wall. And in this one, we've got 2 UAPs. We can't call them UFOs anymore for some reason. And it looks like they
UAP.
crash landed on some alien type environment. And I think those are people over there on the left. Now this next photo is my
No
favorite
way.
because this guy right here resembles the Moai statues that are on Easter Island. So what if those were actually modeled after this type of alien species? Here we've got a UAP that looks like it landed safely this time, and there are a bunch of people looking up at it. And this photo is super cool too because it shows this mushroom fungus type plant that is much bigger than all of the trees around it, and it's kind of ominous too. And it reminds me of the theory that some scientists have presented, which is that millions of years ago, mushrooms were the biggest plants on Earth, but over time they evolved into the size that they are today. What if that somewhere else the mushrooms never evolved and they were the most massive plant out there? Here we've got some type of building that kind of resembles the Aztec buildings in South America. I'm not really sure what I'm looking at here. I'm also kind of thinking it looks like an ancient NASA shuttle. Alright, I've got 2 more photos to show you, so don't scroll just yet. In this one we've got an alien, sinister type being that someone must have taken with a nightshade lens or something. And finally we've got what looks to be an even bigger UAP that is like mixed with an Aztec building, and there are a bunch of people down here looking up at it. So what do you think? Are these photos actually from beyond the ice wall, or are they from somewhere else?
Somewhere else.
It's really interesting to me to watch special operations, the tip of the spear, globally just diminish. I feel like it's going to vanish into nothing. The Canadian guys, have you ever worked with them? The CANSOF recruitment numbers way down. British Special Forces numbers are down. American Special Forces numbers down. Nobody's signing up for this. I feel like the special operator is becoming obsolete. I feel like warfare is evolving and the special operator is being phased out.
Who wants to serve in a woke snowflake military?
Gunung Padang,
There
a
you go.
man-made pyramid, and it's been
This is
found
what I'm talking about. The pyramid in Indonesia.
on the island of Java. The ground-penetrating radar, the picture of what is inside this, shows us that it contains 3 large chambers, one of them at least as large as the King's Chamber in the Great Pyramid. The date of this site puts us back to 20,000 years, right to the last glacial maximum, when Indonesia didn't look at all the way it looks today. Indonesia 20,000 years ago was part of a giant continent.
It's actually near where my mother lives, and she told me every time she goes around there, she feels some kind of energy. dissolve. I want to see Coca-Cola and versus parasites. I think all Disney film are related.
You know the idea of the Michelangelo effect? Have you heard of this? Awesome. The Michelangelo effect describes a situation in a relationship, friendship, or intimate partnership where each partner sees the best in the other and tries to help bring that out. So the sum of the parts is greater than it is individually. I think in life you want to be finding people that believe in you more than you believe in you, that hold you to higher standards.
I think that's the definition of a good friend. I think that's the definition of a good partner. A good definition of a good husband, wife. You know, that they remind us of the best of ourselves.
You know, the only problem is you both have to be this way. A lack of, how you say it, I hope I say it right, reciprocity will ruin this.
The orbs you see hovering around New Jersey is not aliens. Those are called plasmoids. A very well-documented study for decades. And this is not new, okay? It's a very well-known phenomenon, especially in plasma physics. So let's start with the basics. The word plasma may be considered as a blood component or TVs. But in the world of physics, plasma tackled differently, and it is part of the fourth state of matter, alongside with a solid, liquid, and gas. Those drones that flying above New Jersey are only looking for a radioactive materials, and they all try to pick up a radiation. Now, this radioactive material always emits an ionizing radiation that can ionize gas and create high energy particles. And this ionization can produce plasma, or known as plasmoids, not aliens, okay? The simplest way to explain what plasmoid is by looking at our local sun. On deeper level, our local sun is a plasmoid. Now let's go back to the fourth state of matter again. The solid, liquids, gas, and the plasma. So everything you see within the local sun is considered and technically plasma, a superheated gas when atoms have lost their electrons. Plasmoid is a coherent structure of plasma and magnetic field. Since plasma is an ionized gas, it can occur naturally, and also it can be made at the labs. And for it to exist, you have to maintain electric, especially on the magnetic fields, and maintain the high temperature of a plasma. So when these are in the water, since water is a good conducting material, then the electricity would be dissipated into the water and completely obliterate the structure of plasmoids. That's why you see it luminous looking orbs. It is a state of matter, usually made up of charged particles, that's of ions and electrons. These particles are always confined in specific region in magnetic fields. Our galaxies are literally plasmoids. Now, the one you see as orbs, centimeters in size, isn't necessary, especially that's within the magnetic shape as a ball. It's wrapping around itself its own axis. That drone that get close to the plasmoid, when a drone fell and there's this woman who took a video and shouting, should wear hazmat gear, considering plasmoids as stars. Because when you get close to this material, there is a radiation, as plasmoids are like stars. And stars always gives off a radiation, and radiation can ruin any electronic devices or any electronic material. And no, they don't have explosive properties. But when you think about lightning, for example, as lightning is also plasma. When lightning hits something, because of its huge intensity, there can be some sort of quote-unquote explosivity to it. and it's all depending on what it hits. And we all have plasmas at home. The lights on our ceilings, those are plasmas. Plasmoids doesn't affect you mentally, okay? Especially the ones at the atmosphere. Thinking it can affect somebody down, which is us, because it doesn't make sense. There are no scientists that suspect that a plasmoid is a sentient being. It's the same with our bodies that requires complexity, as we all are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons, with different atoms and different molecules, like our brain matter, for instance, that always create pathways when we are talking about consciousness and intelligence. When talking about plasma or plasmoids, we are only talking about the presence of protons and electrons moving around at high speed, especially with its high temperature. That's why you will see it as a speeding orbs. That's all it is. It's not an alien, not an alien orbs, not even an alien invasion. There's no biological evidence and no scientific evidence within plasma physics to suggest that there are any sort of living organisms, especially within plasmoids. Plasmoids are capable of carrying and transferring energy, a very important part of astrophysics and fusion research. Besides, we're all seeing it on our ceiling lights and also in the labs. And you can also observe plasmoids in our thermosphere and our Earth magnetosphere, especially when there is a geomagnetic storms. This all will scattered above. Since Earth is electromagnetic, plasmoids are formed when magnetic reconnection occurs, which is the breaking and reconnecting of the magnetic fields, especially on our magnetic field lines. And during this process, the magnetic field lines break and reconnect and will create an intense energy release and can accelerate plasma particles, a structure of hot temp with a dense plasma and magnetic field, or known as the CMEs. These plasmoids could unlock doors we never even know existed. Time travel maybe? Travel us? How much we have yet to learn. Assalamu alaikum. I hope this video...
Walaikum salam. This was the best description I've heard. But why are there all of a sudden so many showing up right now, when we've never seen them our whole lives?
Castaway the movie.
Castaway the
Tom
movie.
Hanks and Wilson the ball. Here's Wilson on his own. Now, if you haven't seen Castaway or you don't remember what it's about, Tom Hanks is stuck on an island and he makes this ball, cuts his hand, throws a pitcher with the liquid out of his hand, and he calls the ball Wilson because obviously the ball is called Wilson. The make of the ball is Wilson. So he calls his ball Wilson and he pretends to talk to his wife through the ball, who's at home while he's trapped on an island. But what's confused me and what's got me bewildered is why do so many celebrities have this same print on their clothing? This is Richard Branson, a billionaire, and he's wearing the logo of Wilson on his t-shirt. And here we've got Ben Stiller with the logo of Wilson in a frame on his wall. This one is just plain obvious. We've got Lady Gaga dressed as Wilson, Jay-Z wearing a Wilson logo jumper. The same with Ellen DeGeneres, and again the Ben Stiller picture. Could somebody please explain to me, and to everybody else that is unaware of what is going on and what Wilson represents, could you let us know in the comments please? Thank you very much. And guys, if you're still not following me yet, you flipping should be. Come onto my page, click all notifications so you don't miss any future updates.
It's from when they remove the skin from a child face and wear it like a mask.
The first step is to realize that the mind is a tool and is not your boss.
Ooh.
I'm Dr. Richard Lewis Miller. I'm an 85-year-old clinical topic for today is mind control. I mean, over and being able to direct your mind to do what you want it to do rather than what it wants to do. I mean, think the thoughts that you want to think, that you want to see, that you want to watch. The mind is a tool for yours to use. It wants to be the boss. Mind wants to take over and tell you everything, and it wants to intrude on your life. It's how to control this tool, how to change the channel, how to stop intrusions at inconvenient times, which we all have experienced, and to use the mind for the incredibly wonderful, powerful tool that it is, but never to let it be the boss of our lives. We must take control, and there are methods that you want to learn for taking control of your mind.
Wow. We control the mind with the word of God.
Biggest hip hop festival in the world, a Christian rapper took stage and he was rapping and talking about God. And this was at the same stage that people like Playboy Carti were on that were doing this.
What is going on there?
And yes, it was during the day and not many people were there, but listen to what he was saying.
Rolling loud, there is a God who created you and who loves you. His name is Jesus Christ. He wants you to be with him forever in perfect peace, no matter who you are.
Is this the singularity for sight? Because this AI technology just gave a legally blind woman with 20/10 vision, which is pretty much twice the clarity of someone with 20/20 sight. And it does that by building a digital version of your eye, running thousands of simulations, and figuring out the perfect way to reshape your cornea. It really makes you think what other aspects of our health can now be improved thanks to the accelerating boost that AI gives us in tech. To read more about this technology, you can search for the 3D avatar treatment.
Wow.
And if you want more AI insights and updates, feel free to follow or join the community in my bio.
The Denver Spider-Man, right? This old guy, this old man in 1940s, he was chilling in his room and in his house, and all he heard every day was like, or around the house, right? And mind you, he doesn't believe in like ghosts. He thinks that it's the house that's doing that, right? So it continues for 5 weeks straight, and he goes down to his kitchen, right? In the kitchen, there's a guy, a very like Slenderman looking guy, looking through his fridge, fam. Once they bump eyes, that Slenderman guy kills the old man on the spot. What the fuck? Yeah. So boom, the old man's body is found dead on the ground. Yeah. But the police say, oh, nobody came in your house though. That's weird because all the doors, all the windows closed. The only thing they saw was that little trap door to the attic, and they're like, that's impossible. Nobody could even fit through there
and like climb through, right?
Yeah, exactly. So they didn't check it.
Bro was tired being called your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.